What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'll be making a full review for the Romancing Festival Macha banner. That brings Macha as a buffer, damage dealer, supporter. She's everything but only for spellcasters. Then human female, a counter specialist with added buff utilities. And then Nacht Zweiger, a farmer. That's right. Well, let's go and straight out to our srs.xyz website. Starting with Macha, she is the main character here. Very good status, 110% endurance and even 125% will. She also has 131% intelligence and 108% agility. Those are very good status when you think about everything. She starts the fight with 15 BP. That's a lot because she needs 15 BP to use her best skill. Then when she attacks, she always chases with Crimson Flare. That is a triple S attack with heat and sun damage. Besides, when attacking on overdrive, she's going to chase with Capricious Meteor Swarm. We'll be talking more about this skill later. By the end of a turn, she gets 50 points off OG Gouge. She has 20% damage increase at all times, reduces damage taken by 30%, and when resisting damage, she is going to reduce that by another 40%. By start of turn, she casts Morale up and Guard up, so she has very good resistance if you don't have any other Guard up caster, and also 2 BP. She gets 5 BP per turn and that's it, starting with 15. But now, she also gives all surviving allies Elemental and Sorcery, that gives 30% enhance for spell damage. In this case, you're gonna get 150% damage increase when using spells for the whole squad. That's quite a lot, and it will also increase Macha damage output. When you think about that, she has at least 170%, and then even more because of the morale up, 195% by turn 5 onwards. Then skill 1 is Burning Light. It's a single target free skill so that you don't need to use a normal attack. That buffs intelligence by 25% on max rank, heat and sun damage. And then she has Vertical Flare, the same skill that Kong Ming had. It's a column attack that hits 3 times with C power. That is much stronger than a 4S attack. Very useful when we get to the point where we need column damage. Now, skill number 3 is called Capricious Meteor Swarm. It is a spell that hits 5 times with deep power and that costs 15 BP and deals heat and blunt damage, not heat and sun. It is different. Each attack would then trigger a Macha teaching to a random surviving ally. But what is Macha teaching? I was waiting to this moment because she already gives Macha teaching to every surviving ally on the start of a turn. It is a passive that works for spell builds. Of course, when attacking with spells, you will activate the following all at once. You buff all surviving allies' intelligence and will by 15%. You then grant an attack boost to all surviving allies that increases damage potential by 15%, lasts for 2 turns and stack. That is important because sometimes you don't know which of your characters are attacking, so on the next turn everyone gets the benefit. Then they will also apply a defense boost that decreases damage taken for everyone by 15%, but only for that turn, meaning that you have to attack before the enemy. 3 different buffs. Intelligence and will is offensive and defensive. Attack, offensive. Defense boost, defensive. Because she already cast this for everyone, you can already see that you can buff 75% intelligence and will just by using a full spell-based squad that attacks. And then you also get a 75% attack boost just from this alone, alongside 5 stacks of defense boost that works multiplicatively, but you get what I mean. A lot of good things already without even casting skill number 3. Skill number 3 will then choose random targets to get new stances of Macha's teaching, so she can even apply it to herself. And there is a good thing, she has a chase attack, meaning that even if she gets 3 stacks of Macha's teaching, she's going to chase with Crimson Flare, and that will already trigger all of the effects to everyone else's. This skill is also fast to help counter some problems, like for example, Macha will go first, usually, but if there is another fast attacker in your party that has a higher agility than Macha, and that character will benefit from the Macha's teaching if it's using a spell, there may be cases where Macha will trigger the extra Macha teaching for someone that uses a fast skill and already attack it. That will be lost, just like with J-Mew's skill as well. Remember J-Mew? He passes his passive for new characters. So if they already attack it, they cannot benefit. So that is pretty similar to what Macha is doing, but Macha is doing it with much more effects. Although Jamie is a debuffer, and Macha is more of an attack and defense booster and status buffer. And then, okay, on Overdrive, you can use Capricious Meteor Swarm and then chase with Capricious Meteor Swarm. And then you're gonna have up to 15 stacks of Macha Stitching. Now, 15 defense boosts of small effect is quite a lot. It is as much as 92% mitigation. It is ridiculous, but it's also unpractical. Why? Because skill tree costs 15. The best way to handle the situation is you're gonna get 50 points off OG Gouge. If you are on OG, use Burning Light, because you're gonna get your Capricious Meteor Swarm as a chase for free. Alongside the other 5 Macha Stitching, you have 10 stacks, up to 10 defense boosts. This will already give you an 83% damage mitigation. Okay, the game is wanting us to use even more and more defense boosts, but Macha is going to help if you can make a full spell-based squad. Even then, you only get 5 EP per turn, and you want to use Capricious Meteor Swarm in one turn, and then in the other, you want to use Burning Light. And in those situations, you will need extra BP battery. Like, Leon can give you 3 BP every turn, it will be enough, for example. Or Shirei, if he can use his skill tree every turn. So it's not impossible to use Macha, but then, remember, Shirei and Leon are not spellcasters. That breaks the pattern. Macha will not be easy to use. If use it on full potential, amazing. But then you have to remember that there is a character like Therese in the game. Therese can apply as much as 12, that's right, 12 defense boosts. Because she applies defense boost when she's attacking, and she can attack 2 times with her main skill and then 4 times with her chases. So that's 6, and then another 6 if she manages to get into overdrive every turn. It's not that impossible. It is easy if you just have Hawk, for example. She can get into overdrive every single turn, or Shirei allows her to get into overdrive every single turn. And that is much easier than using a full spell-based squad. She also buffs Endurance, Will, Love, and Charisma, and that really helps. Okay, so Macha is nice, can reach very good potential, but it's not for everyone. It's more for collectors that have plenty of spellcasters that can offer whatever you want, like debuffs, buff break, whatever you may need in a fight. Macha by herself is very limited if you think about that, but can reach extremely high potential if used on the right setups. Macha doesn't really want any type of inheritance, but theoretically you could use, for example, the SaGa Magical Train skill, because it applies Sundered for 2 turns, but then you're not using her skill tree. That'll be more for the cases where you are finishing a fight and you want to cast defense down instead of trying to protect yourself, and maybe you have enough defense. That's right, but anything else doesn't really help. You can also inherit Rock Fire if you want extra BP, but it's just 1, or Rock Summon that has a medium chance to give 4. Like, for example, the Tower skill that is fast and can also debuff intelligence by 30%. We used this skill in the past, but this Macha is about something else. Another inheritance can be Cosmic Circle, that is a support fast skill that can give you Mischief Magic Domain for 5 turns to the enemies as well. So you are increasing spell damage by 75% and reducing skill damage by 30%. So you use it when the enemies only uses skills and you are focused on spells. All in all, Macha is nice, but also extremely skippable if you don't have full spell-based squads. I still give her a 4.5 grade because of potential, but if you don't have the gems, it is easy to skip. Now we have Human Female, and she is a character that can counter, so 111 Endurance and Will are just okay. But she has very high agility with 140% and 115% STR. Well, on the start of a battle, she gives 5 points of max BP to everyone, and it will be permanent in battle. She will also buff STR, Endurance, Agility, and Will by 35% only on start of battle. Then, on the start of a turn, she buffs the same status but just 5% to herself. She will also give her an evasion for 1 time 1 turn, so the first hit every turn will be negated. Then on every 3 turns, counting from the start of battle, she would then give everyone's 3 BP. She would then buff SGR, Endurance, Agility, and Will, the same status, by 25%, and then recover HP by around 1,500 to everyone. On every 6 turns, then, she will give extra 6 BP. Because this will stack with the first part, you will actually give 9 BP, and then you will actually be buffing a total of 55% STR, Endurance, Agility, and Will, and 1 evasion, but this time for everyone. It is nice, but every 6 turns. Reminds me of Hulk that gets his new charge after 6 turns, but his skill is better. If the enemy removes your buffs, well, you lose a lot, but you get also 9 BP on every 6 turns. It's not bad. Now she gets a 30% damage increase at all times, alongside a 40% damage increase at all times, for a total of 70%. Reduces damage taken 2 times by 30% as well. When landing an attack, she casts a heat up of medium effect that will increase her damage potential by 10% for the whole fight, reaching 50 triggers. That's right, as much as 500 damage increase if she manages to attack 50 times. When landing an attack, she also gets 1 BP, and she will attack multiple times because when she is directly attacked, she reduces damage taken and counterattacks with Rush Plus. Meaning that if you are in a fight with multiple targets and they want to use single target or AoE direct attacks, she will then counter with Rush, and each counter will also trigger heat up. She also always chases with Vacuum Wave. That is her second skill, a roll attack that will also apply attack down, that as a chase will decrease the attack damage of the enemy by 10%, only lasts for 1 turn though, and will also buff break the enemies. So a roll skill for free that can buff break, much like Wayne that can buff break with any of his attacks. So at least a guaranteed chase to help her get more of her heat ups, but I don't really like this. This is just there. She exists to help buff party and also work on Remembrance fights, because on Remembrance for MRs she will actually make a difference. On hard challenges, not as much. Now, skill number 1 is Hasty Kick. It's a roll attack that will also buff STR and Agility by 25% on max rank. The second one is the skill that we already discussed. If you want to use it as a command, max level will bring the attack down to 15%. So you have 15% and then a 10% as a chase to decrease damage taken by 25% on the source. It is good, especially if the enemies are aligned in a row, but it's just blunt damage. Then the skill number 3 is called Destructive March. It's a roll attack again, blunt damage, double S power, 10 BP, that will also grant her a 1 evasion. Nothing really stellar, and there is just a big problem here. She is a counter specialist that does not taunt. There's no taunt here. So you want to use formations like Rising King, Rising Phoenix EX, or the new Imperial Cross EX. But even then, she does not work as well as people like Julian or Final Emperor, and that can lead into some problems. Those tanks have very good damage and also very good counters, while UniverSe counter is pretty weak. It is just S power compared to them. Well, 2 hits of Julian is already stronger than Rush Plus most of the time, and Final Emperor can counter 2 times if he can stack his skill, and it's like 4 attacks with S power, not just 1. So 4 full damage potential in UniverSe is not there. If you need extra help for Megalith Dragon, she helps a lot because you are buffing, giving VP, recovering. If you haven't cleared the stage number 5 yet, UniverSe is going to help you with that. But she's not the only one that's going to help you with that. So you can simply skip her and wait for other characters in the future. As for inheritance, you may prefer to use something else. Well, for example, she has Cat Attack Plus. That is a free skill with C power that has a 50% chance to chase with Cat's Claw. That will give her extra BP. That may be better, although her skill 3 just gives evasion. Doesn't really help. We much prefer something else like attack, boost, defense, boost, ailment resistance buff, or whatever. You can also use Cat's Claw because it will always recover 3 BP. In this case, you are just using a little stronger attack than a normal attack. If you don't have much BP, you can also use Wrecking Glass to buff agility. Not really important anyway. Fight Order is also okay from her latest style. That buffs SGR and agility by 30% for everyone. Or Twin Art Strike, that will give a large blunt attack boost. This will increase damage potential by 45% when using blunt damage. This can help depending on your squad, especially on Remembrance if you need extra damage. There's also the case of using Little Witch's Plus, because this skill here is fast, so that you will have a fast buff break as well. This also grants guard down, not that it matters, but it happens. And then there is also this Halloween Bat Arts that gives her a hit up of 20% damage increase if you want to get something higher right on start. But it's nothing required. Human Female is not really stellar. Works well right now, but it's going to be easily power creeped in the very near future. Well, I believe she deserves only a 3.5 out of 5. The last character will be Nacht Zweiger, and this one is the worst. 140% STR and agility. Okay, you can see that this character was designed for damage. Everything else is terrible. Even though this character has a 30% damage reduction, look at the endurance and will. They are very old. It was designed to just do a lot of damage for the new event that works like Final Island. The higher the damage, the less actions, the higher the score. Now, you get a full overdrive gauge, and then you get a 50% increase to your overdrive damage, starts the fight with 13 BP, and then loses 50% of your max HP. That's right, because when you attack on overdrive and you start with overdrive, you get this 4 times evasion, and then you're going to get another recoil damage, this time for 99%, and then we'll chase with Dead Hit 3 times. What is Dead Hit? Skill number 3. That is a row attack with blunt damage. Before attacking, if the HP is not full, it will grant a blunt attack boost that can reach 50% damage increase when using blunt attacks, and a weak attack boost that can increase 35% weak damage for just that turn, and then launches an attack. Okay, so this is going to work for each new chase, and we're gonna chase 3 times. If you start the fight and use skill 3, then you're gonna use this 4 times, and each new hit will do more damage. Damage is insane. It is not enough to kill new bosses. Of course it's not. That's why it's so hard to use Nacht Zweiger. He was designed to do insane amounts of damage in 1 turn, and that's it. And we're talking about, I don't know, maybe 600,000 damage for the first hit, and then it just keeps scaling for maybe 3 million on 1 turn or higher. I don't even know. Okay, besides that, by the end of turn you get 2 BP, and then you have a 50% chance to recover your OG gauge to the full. On the start of a turn, if your OG gauge is full, then you're gonna get a Morale Up Extreme that will increase your damage output by 50%. If it's not full, then you get a Guard Up Very Large that decreases damage taken by 50%, does not stack. And then you have a 20% damage potential. Together with the Morale Up, you have just 70%. And by the end of a turn, cleanses from the humans. As you can see, the damage potential comes from the skill, not from the character. Then skill number 1 is Super Turbo. It is a support skill that can give you 1 evasion for 1 time 1 turn, recover your HP by 1.5 thousand, and also 3 extra BP. That is if you didn't get your OG Gauge Fillet. Let's say that you want to use Nacht Zweiger hypothetically in a fight, and you use your overdrive on turn 1, then on turn 2 you are not on overdrive, you use Super Turbo, because it gives you extra BP and doesn't spend anything. There's also Spin Wheel, a single target blunt attack that buffs all surviving allies' will. No reason to use this. It's all about using that hit, Super Turbo, and if you don't have enough BP on overdrive, you can even use, I don't know, a normal attack. Still, if you use a normal attack, you're not going to combo. That is a problem, but I don't think people will be using Nacht Zweiger on combos anyway. As for inheritance, you can use Romancing Exciting Custom if you have the second premium style, because this one will give him an evasion stance for 1 turn. Then it will buff STR and agility by 50%, give a 20% hit up, but also a guard down. So he's gonna take more damage later. But it doesn't really matter, I don't know, it is probably for very specific niche moments where you can charge the character and use in a different turn. In the end, Nacht Zweiger is very limited and someone that may help you in the new Final Islands of sorts, but totally skippable. We receive only a 2.5 out of 5. But now back to the banner image. Is this banner worth summoning for? In my opinion, no. I will be giving a silver minus award, and that's only because Macha has very good potential. Still, she's better as a recommendation for collectors and people that have lots of spellcaster. If you do have, I would still think twice about pulling for her because it's really hard to use her. And then human female is good now. We'll help people clear Remembrance Megalith Dragon number 5, but then she's not going to stay as a really relevant character and not worth the investment. And because of that, I skipped this banner. Summon it on Princess Ray banner, but that's because I had more reasons to pull there. But you can still skip both banners if you want and save gens, because this is always a good thing. With all that said, this is my opinion. What is yours? Please see here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope to see you soon in the next one. Goodbye.